Stop. Consider yourself warned. You are about to enter into a place that is not for the faint of heart. It is a place that is rooted in faith and reason. So if you are up for the challenge and are ready to do some spiritual spelunking, you are welcome to try. Welcome to Pat King's Man Cave.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Pat King's Man Cave. I'll get that. It's my title, and I'll get it down eventually. But you know what? I'm not perfect, and that means if you've got a message and you want to talk, you can do the same thing because anybody can do it if I can do it. So again, I've got Ken Reef here today, and I've got him on. Yes, we're in the same shirts and the same day we're recording. We're doing multiple episodes at a time, so I have very limited studio time because I live so far away. So Ken here, we talked about the nights, and now we're going to talk about his Catholic journey. To me, it's so important to discuss your journey as a faithful Catholic because we all think that we just go to Mass, live our lives, and everything's fine and copacetic. But the journey, no one knows the journey because no one knows what everybody's going through. Very few people know that I have had a son. I left the church. I got married to a Southern Baptist girl. She was married from a previous marriage, had a kid from a previous marriage. I married her outside of the proper, edicts of the church as far as a sacramental marriage. I didn't do anything right. I didn't stay in the Catholic Church. I left the church for her, which in the long run was the bad choice, not the marriage, but my leaving the church. So I found my way back, and that's how this podcast came about. So when you hear men's stories, their conversions or reconversions, or they may have been cradle Catholics, and their journey to Catholicism and the depth of it is very important. And because we want you to know that your life is not the only one out there that's going awry or is challenging or difficult. And with the modern era, with podcasts, the internet, you can hear other men's story, and the old adage, iron sharpens iron. This is where the nights are important. This is where other men of the church are important, get to know them. But men's stories, women's stories, men's stories, they're all important. Saints tell their stories. If you like, I love reading about the saints and hearing the saints' stories, hearing about their life, what they've gone through to become saints. We're all on a path to sainthood. We're all should be striving for that. And the only way that happens if you're always trying to work to better your life in your faith, your religion, your community, your family. And so these stories are little journeys in other people's lives that show you if they can. I know that I would not be here if it wasn't for my past. If God hadn't brought me back to the church and seeking the truth on my behalf, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I would have never worn a crucifix because my life was, I should just live my life and the example everyone should follow. But you know what? That's an ego. You've got to humble yourself, submit yourself to God's will. And if you're listening to God's will, then you'll do what he asks you to do. And because I can talk, and there's no argument here in the room, no one said, oh, no, you don't talk. That's like, see, look at it.
That's a smirk.
Because I'm willing to talk. Look, I don't care what anybody else thinks about me anymore. I've gone well past that notion that everybody's opinion matters to me. So I don't care. You don't listen, that's fine. You listen, fine. If you learn something, great. That's my intention. I want to be real. I want to be honest, but I want to do what God has called me to do. And so having other men tell their stories is a good way for you to realize, oh, wow. So he went through some of the same things I'm going through right now. And if he can be this important role as a state advocate of the Knights of Columbus for the state of Idaho, or he could be a direct district deputy or a grand knight and come out unscathed or better for it, maybe there's hope for me. Maybe I can do the same thing. And that's all we're trying to do is create this this avenue of betterment for your life. And so Ken, I don't really know much about his story. I will figure out questions for him as we go. But Ken, you're born and raised a Catholic, right?
I'm a cradle Catholic.
Cradle Catholic. Did you ever leave the church?
I never left excuse me, I never left the church, but I stopped going to mass for a while.
That's leaving the church.
Well, I
Kinda,
still
sorta.
considered myself a
Yeah,
Catholic.
well, so did I.
I still followed the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
But because of various things that went on, I
Was it a long
left.
span?
Well, it was. Well, let me tell my story.
Yeah. Okay.
Growing up Catholic,
Whereabouts?
I was born in San Francisco. I grew up in a brand new town on the San Francisco Peninsula called Los Altos.
Okay.
And
Like literally a brand new town.
yeah, it was all orchards.
Oh.
And my playground was orchards. And went to a Catholic grammar school for 8 years. I did the things that a boy was supposed to do at that time. I became an altar boy, spent a lot of time in the church serving Mass. And
Back when the Mass was Latin.
it was Latin. I learned Latin.
And you the kneelers and the patents and the...
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And I knew probably 3/4 of the people in the church that attended Mass on Sunday. Knew all the priests. The priests would come to your home, have dinner, be at a party, etc.
I enjoyed that.
So then I went to a all-boys Catholic high school. And the interesting thing is this was done by the Brothers of Holy Cross, which is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And they did not have religion class. They had ethics class, which is what's right, what's wrong, and it helps you develop a moral compass that way.
Okay.
And at that time, I think I needed that. I participated in a lot of sports growing up. I graduated from high school, wasn't the greatest student there, too interested in the sports and doing other things. So I went to a community college, and at the same time, I got a fantastic job working on the docks. I say fantastic because I was young and dumb, and I made a lot of money, but I didn't realize
none of us were young and dumb. I think guys are famous for being young and dumb.
Young and dumb. And I did that until I received a eventful letter in the mail that said, "Greetings. You are hereby ordered to report."
Oh, you got one of those letters.
Yeah.
A welcoming committee.
Yes, and I thought, well, I went and enlisted in the Marine Corps. And,
at that time you
Well,
you could...
I was going to go in the Army, and I said, I didn't want to go in the Army. I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and I went in on a delayed entry program. And I remember going up to the Oakland on a bus, coming home on a bus that day. No one knew where I was. And I enlisted, sat down at dinner, which was always a great treat for me because my father and I were not getting it.
Every night family dinner, or
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
That's the way we used to be that way.
Pretty much. And my sister was already gone to college. I was working the night shift from 10:30 at night to 6 in the morning. And,
Doing what?
Unloading trucks.
Unloading trucks. Okay.
Yeah, and
throwing cases, throwing boxes.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly what I was doing.
I threw boxes on a train car, onto a train car.
And my dad goes, "What'd you do today?" And I go, "I enlisted in the Marine Corps." "Well, what did you do?" "No, I enlisted in the Marine Corps."
He didn't believe you.
And my mother was just beside herself. Years later, she had kept this secret from us kids. My mom's first husband was killed in World War II. And so this hit her.
So
real hard.
What's your family heritage? Just
on my mom's side, it's Mexican. Okay. And my dad's side, it's German. He's from Kentucky with that heritage.
Okay, yeah, I'm German and Italian.
Yeah. So anyhow, went in the military, and I guess when I got out, I was so busy. I went back to college, and I met my wife. We dated during this period of time, and I was going out having a good time. I was doing college. I thought I'd get a degree in public relations, and I wanted to promote rock concerts. And so I was learning how to do that. And I actually got a job on a college campus that enabled me to do that, bring in speakers or bands or concerts. And unfortunately, I was laid off because they were going through a reduction. And I had a house. I was married by this time, talking about getting a kid. And I'm thinking, oh, God, I'm in deep trouble. So about the only job that I could get real quick was a job in sales. And I'd never done that before. Well, I stayed in that profession for 42 years.
Wow.
And
so sales, what at the time? What was the sales?
I started off on business forms that ran through a computer printer. And I took that and got into big time servers, computer equipment, maintenance service for computer rooms, running computer rooms, and those were the type of things I sold. But that portion of my life, the most part, was pretty dang busy.
Yeah.
Trying to reinvent myself.
Well, it's a new. I mean, you're really going into a new industry. At that time.
And if you did not make any sales, you didn't get paid any money.
Oh, so it's commission only.
Well, a very small base.
Yeah.
Make a long story short, I really wasn't practicing my faith. I was living my faith, but not practicing it in the church. And that changed when my kids were born, and they were at an age where we could bring them back into the faith. And so we go to church there. During that whole period of time, I coached baseball, I coached soccer, and I did all that type of stuff.
What region of the...
I did it on the Western United States.
Okay.
So
you traveled a lot.
Well, for business, I travel all over the United States, and basically, yeah. If they had an airport, I was there. But busy. I mean, I'd come home Friday night at 10 o'clock. I've been on the East Coast all week, and get home 1 o'clock, and I'm burned out for the weekend. And then we'd go on vacation. I'd sleep for 3 days, and then I'd finally be ready to spend the last 4 days having some fun. But that.
How many kids?
I've got 2 kids. I have a boy and a girl. Anyhow, to make a long story short, during that, they went through that. Once they got, I think, out of high school and they started questioning various things, I took the foot off the pedal with religion for them. Figured they'd figure it out.
Okay.
And when I took the foot off the pedal for them, I think I did it for myself too. And I really didn't come back to the Catholic religion. I stopped and started again in the churches. But really it wasn't until I was in my early to mid 50s that I started being a regular churchgoer again. And that was because I realized how fortunate I was, and I wanted to really be grateful for that and help other people. And it all fell in together, the nights and the going back to church and living your life by example.
Right.
Living with other men and listening to them talk. And I thought, well, now's the time. So I've been pretty active in the nights since I started. And I concentrate not only having this position with the Knights, but mentoring Grand Knights, other state officers.
So what was your understanding as just a parishioner, not a Knight yet? What was your understanding of what the Knights were? Did you know much about them? Did you know, like I said, I had preconceived notions about them from just what I saw as a kid, because no one taught me otherwise. So what was your understanding of the Knights?
Mine, like most kids and Catholics, I remember the fish fries.
Okay.
I remember some of the parish festivals. But my dad was not a joiner. And but my mom, deeply devout Catholic, so we'd go to a lot of these events, fish fries, all that type of stuff, and I could see them from afar. But since my father didn't do it,
Right.
I didn't get any
Well,
of the inner workings.
Just
from
goes
it.
to show you what the father's influence, good or bad, or
Yeah.
participatory or not. They set the tone, especially for boys.
Yes, exactly. So I would say throughout my whole life, up until I joined, the Knights were someone that I understand. They helped the priest, they helped the parish, they helped the community. I'd see them in the parade. We had a pet parade. They'd drive this crazy little car around the pet parade. But as I'm looking for something to do, I think I picked the Knights. One, because I was aware of them, and two, I'm still working, so I had to get something
Right.
to fit into my work schedule.
Yeah.
So that's what I knew about the Knights.
So your journey, what about the Catholic Church that brought you back? I mean, there was something that brought you back to the church. Was it the Knights, or was it just? I mean, what was that urgency? What was it that brought you to a regular participant in Mass and feeling I need to be here?
Well, as I mentioned, I was fortunate in business.
Yeah.
Financially.
Right. Okay.
But I was starting to realize that money doesn't buy you happiness.
This is so true.
There is a big gap in your life there. I tell people, I'd say everybody should make a lot of money at least once in their life, and that will...
I did for a short period of time.
And you'll understand it's not the end all, right? And as you start looking at that, the end all is where you end up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That is the end all.
That's...
As you said earlier, you got a choice. We don't know where, it's up to you to influence where that choice is, where you end up.
The old saying
Heaven or
is,
hell.
God can take it, can give it to you and take it away. And I got to the point where I worked all the time. I mean, I did businesses that were pretty much 7-day-a-week requirements.
Right.
A greenhouse business, a vineyard, small farm, landscaping business. And I had every excuse in the book not to go to church. Now, I wasn't a practicing Catholic, but I built this company up to where it was worth $10 million, a lot of money, and owned a lot of property, some houses and stuff. And one quick, short year and a half time, I lost it all.
Yeah, those are tough years.
And lost it all, lost my marriage. My son had passed away and pretty much brought me to the pit of despair. And I didn't return to the church because I was at the bottom of my barrel. I returned to the church because I felt this constant need to seek that truth, that happiness, because 7 days a week working, and I wasn't happy, and I knew it. I wasn't going to give up my things, my farm. I had an 80-acre farm and all this stuff, all this equipment, all these things. I wasn't going to give that up, but I was seeking truth. And what God did for me was, okay, I'll show you truth. Now, it wasn't a fun way to go, but I'll tell you what, I found that because couldn't work I had no excuse to work 7 days a week. I found that truth, that happiness.
I think, going along with what you said, about that time I heard a saying, man plans, God laughs. And it reresonated with me. And because all my planning didn't go in the right direction, I lost a fair bit of things in investments that I felt were good, but when the real estate market crashed, when .coms went down, and everything, it's like, jeez Louise.
Yeah, you're going, but why can't I be happy with this?
Yes.
I'm doing, why can't that? But it really doesn't fulfill you.
Right. So I think if I look for fulfillment, specifically with the Knights, I've had a couple of instances in my life where I'm trying to influence people through my actions. Not telling them verbally,
Right.
be like me, through my actions. And they have resonated me. People, for example, once myself and another night were delivering Christmas presents and food to a very poor part of town. And I pull up in the driveway of this house, and these gang members came out. And they're wearing the do-rags and everything like that. And they literally ran toward the car, and one guy shouting, "What do you do here? And what are you doing?" And I got out of the car and I said, "We're with the Knights of Columbus, and we've got food and gifts for the family at this house." And this young man turned around, ran back in the house, yelling, "Grandma, the Knights are here. Grandma, the Knights are here." And
Totally turned that whole situation around.
right. And I just got to the point where I realized people know who we are, and if we can influence them. There's another story about where I had a short conversation with someone with the Hells Angels, and he noticed the emblem on my chest here. And he said, he tapped his own chest where the emblem would have been, and he says, "Knights of Columbus, great organization." And those are the most visible ones that come to mind. But realizing what we do in the Knights of Columbus, people are watching.
Well, that's funny you bring that up because my Grand Knight and I were up in Coeur d'Alene for our state convention just this last weekend. We just got back early Monday morning after a long drive because it's about 8 hours north of Boise. And we were on a lunch break between things going on. And so we go out to this burger place. Whenever I travel, I try to find, I don't go to like the standard, McDonald's or something. I try to find something local or small, something unique.
Mom and pop.
Mom and pop or just smaller.
Yeah.
Because I like to support the local community. I like to try new food. I'm a foodie. If anyone look at my physique, you can tell I don't get this way by eating vegetables and salad all the time. Trust me. So Tom's the same way as my Grand Knight. We we want to try different things. We want to support the communities we're traveling in, and so we find this little place, a little hole in the wall. Looked like it just opened. So okay, we'll try it. Very good burger, by the way. But we're wearing our night shirts, and we walk to go sit down. We get our order. We go sit down, and this guy goes, "Oh, Knights, you guys are great. You guys do a lot of work. I'm excited. I'm glad to meet you." And he wasn't a Catholic. He was a refugee from that other place, that California place, living in Coeur d'Alene, and spoke very respectful and honored us very much by what he said. And so we ended up engaging in conversation with him. We got to know he was a refugee from California. But the fact that he's a Christian, not a Catholic, but the fact that he knew about the Knights and knew about the organization, all the good things that the Knights overall do, that bodes well for the example that other men that we haven't met, that we don't know, that's a reputation that it's hard to keep. But when you have good men doing those things, stepping out, reaching out, volunteering, 140 years, 144, what is it? 1882. So that's a long history of the Knights always being a good example.
And basically doing the same type of work now as we did back then.
That's right. And so it was, I kind of puffed up my chest and felt like, all the time I put in here, the traveling to the convention, being a part of a bigger thing than yourself, it's, it's like as if I did all that. You know what I mean? It just, it made you feel so good to be a part of an organization that's so honorable.
I call it my aha moment.
Uh-huh.
Got it. It reinforces and validifies or validates my actions in staying in the Knights and remaining active.
So it sounds to me like your reversion, slight, you never really left the church, but your return was fostered by the fact it's a symbiotic relationship between your faith as a Catholic and the Knights of Columbus.
Yeah, I get the majority of my faith from the parish
Right.
and from the ministries there, and I get to live my faith through the Knights of Columbus.
Yeah, your faith is grown by one aspect, but living it is grown through another aspect.
Correct.
Because, to be honest, the church calls you out to do things all the time, but they really can't steer a parked car. They can't make you do things. The Knights, on the other hand, they don't make you do anything either. But, if you ask me to do something as a Knight, I'd be more willing to do it because you're asking me.
Well, and also, too, let's be honest. We make friends, strong friends in the Knights. And you ask your friend, are you going to go do this? I don't know. Well,
a little Catholic guilt.
How about we go together? And we go together. So I reinforce his commitment, and he reinforces my commitment. And we go there, and we don't have to be quiet like we're in Bible study or the church or something like that. Which
is a good thing for me.
Yeah, we can actually talk back and forth, have some jokes while we're working hard.
Well, one of the things my first convention, and so I'm not really a guy. I mean, I don't think I'd be a good politician because I can't be that polite when someone's being an idiot. But so our state deputy said, let's have fun. And they have this little fine thing where if you screw up, you mess up, you get to put $1 in a toilet bucket, and it's got his picture on it. And, I was brazen enough to step up and point something out, and my district deputy said, he's new to the convention. He's too young to be this lippy. And so he paid the fine for me, but I asked if it would make change, So, and it was just $1 for a fine. And the fine's it's not to humiliate, it's to have fun. And I realized, even though there's some serious business going on, things that we want to do, because you know what? Picking out a charity or doing things, it is serious. You're called to help others, and that is serious because you're really looking at their overall betterment. But you can have fun doing it. And our fish fries, we have a blast at the convention. It was a lot of business, but it wasn't so prim and proper and orderly that you couldn't have fun with it. And it was really, I was surprised. It was a blast. And these are guys, a lot of these guys up there are serious businessmen, retired. They're working very serious business. And you know what? They're human too, and they wanted to have fun as well.
That's right.
And to see men in suits and ties having a blast, and then gathering afterwards, we have these hospitality rooms in the evening, sit down just talking till all hours of the night. It was very refreshing and rewarding. And you're going like, that's a business, that's a formal organization, and it was fun.
I agree.
Yeah. So I want to thank Ken for his time again. For the earlier episode, we talked about the culture of the Knights, and he's going to start a live radio show at Salt and Light Radio on Fridays every other week. And it's going to go into things like Into the Breach and other cultural aspects of the Knights of Columbus. But his goal, like my goal, so I'm part of the evangelization faith formation team, and my goal I've been tasked with is to go help start other men's ministries within the councils that'll engage non-members in the parish of every parish. So you don't have to be a Knight to come to these men's ministries that the Knights are going to start, but we've already got the infrastructure in place to make this happen. So we're called to not just volunteerism, but we're also called to build your faith, to build up the man through faith formation and prayer and fraternity, sharing a meal, bonding over, hey, you never know if a man's hurting if you don't ask him. Most men won't share that just in open conversation. So we're going to try and form time where men can get together, and if they need help, they can ask for it. We can be there to support, but to mentor and to guide and to help build up the man, because the world out there is trying to tear men down. I mean, in a big way, to the point where some young men are so confused that they think they're girls. And if us men knowing the truth aren't willing to step up and step out and try to step into the breach, try to stop that from happening, to help change that culture back to men and women and what their responsibilities are. You know what? This world's going to go to the guy that doesn't like the world. And so we were put on this earth to do battle with that evil. And that the knights, even though we're good, compassionate men that volunteer, we also are strong. And the warriors, the right arm, the right strong arm of the parish, of the priest, of the church, and we're going to do battle with evil. And this is, I know it's a phrase. It's like, oh, it's really, you guys want to take up the arm? Yeah, we have to. If we aren't fighting it on this level, who's going to? So, Ken, I want to thank you for doing the show,
Sure.
For talking about the Knights. And I'm glad that you're going to be moving that live radio portion of our show and bringing the Knights to the audience every other Friday. Maybe we get to where we're doing it every Friday, but we're glad to be presenting that firsthand and on an ongoing basis so we keep the Knights out there. We need to keep them out front and center, get that people knowing that we're more than just sitting a bunch of old men sitting playing cards and drinking beer. We're more than that. We're so much more than that. And my show is the same way. I want to bring men's ministries to the forefront and call men to duty, to step up. And I also want to thank my good buddy Dave Fortin for helping me with my intro and my outro, those little things at the beginning and the end of the episodes. Eddie for the graphics, Salt and Light Radio for the content, let me produce the content, and Trinity, of course, always there shaking her knees, waiting for me to shut up and get over with. So with that, we'll end with the St. Michael's prayer again. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Pat King's Man Cave, a weekly podcast discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. A product of Salt and Light Catholic Radio in Boise, Idaho. To learn more about our ministry, please visit our website at saltandlightradio.com.